Our hero is an ordinary farmer. He ends up in a dungeon, for the village government imprisoned him in it because he supposedly killed a girl, but he didn't. That will still play a part. This dungeon is ranked S, and it is not possible to survive in it. Hero panics and cries, but a goddess appears who gives him the ability to save and load after death. Katara Village, the place where our protagonist was born. In this village there is a dungeon of Ezrang, the dungeon of the Cathars. Many adventurers are trying to conquer it. That's why it's so lively. Well, our hero just works as a farmer. His crops are ruined. Our hero is summoned by some bandits. We are shown that he is the son of the head of Darga village. The son of the head states that his father said that this farmer's crops are no good at all. But the hero says that this is because this bandit destroyed his vegetable garden. He just tries to start to justify himself, but immediately realizes that it can't be helped, because in this country, the owners of silver hair will be bullied. Once upon a time, there were people who betrayed humanity and helped demons. They are called Alk. Our hero apologizes, but immediately gets punched in the forehead, for the bandit is on his change. The bandit declares. The hero tells that he is constantly being beaten and his crops are being destroyed, but he has no choice but to put up with it. Our hero walks through the city and meets a nice girl who is dressed quite nicely. The hero calls her Nami, and apparently he knows her. She asks him to sit down with her, and she will fix him up. The hero tells her that Nami is his neighbor and childhood friend, the only person in the village who is close to him. The hero thanks Namiya, and Namiya asks why the people of their village don't like him. But the hero is already resigned, because he asks her what he can do about it. Everyone hates people with silver hair, but Namiya says she likes his hair color. The hero thinks about the fact that this hair brings bad luck, but Namiya accepts him as he is. He is happy. Namiya stops smiling and tells Pussy that she is going to marry Dark. Our hero sits back and says with a strange smile that he congratulates them. But the girl asks if he is happy with everything and plans to live here further. But she says it's not a good idea, because everyone here is bullying him, and if he stays, he'll break sooner or later. And she asks where he'll go, since this is the only place he's allowed to stay. The girl takes his hand and suggests he run away. She tells him that she has some savings. It's enough to last her for a while. She doesn't want to marry someone like him. Afterward, the hero says her name, and afterward confesses his love and kisses her right at dawn. Night is coming. Tonight our hero and Namiya will leave this village, and all this darkness will be left behind. The hero runs up to Namiya's house, and he hears someone scolding her. He rushes in and sees that they tried to rape her. The bandits exclaim why the silver head is here, and the hero asks what they're doing, to which the bandit calls him blind. He can't see what they're doing. Our hero tells them to just get out of here, and the hero punches this thug. He tells him to get the hell out of here, but the guy takes the punch and gets up and punches him in the stomach. They, with their company, who tried to rape Namiya, beat our hero. The bandit asks what he's doing here, since Namiya is his sister-in-law, and he doesn't understand why he's here. One of his underlings lashes out at the hero, and the main bandit rips out his fingernail. Namiya asks to stop and says she will tell the whole truth, but the hero shouts that she doesn't have to do that. But the one hits him, telling him to slam and not to say anything. He yells for Namiya not to tell them, but the man has already started passing out from the blows, and Namiya tells everything about their plan. Our hero faints while looking at Namiya's face, during which she is strangled badly. We are transported to the main building in this city. We are told that the convict Kiski took advantage of Namiya's parents' absence and broke into the house, raped and murdered her. For this, Kiski will be thrown into the Cathars dungeon. The hero realizes that Namiya is dead, and upon learning the truth, Dargo got angry and killed her. Then everything was built up like that, and as if he was the one who committed the crime. The hero asks to say his last words, but then he remembers that he had tried to explain everything to them, but it was simply useless, because the false testimony of the three men and the authority of the village head had nullified his word. All this was of no avail, and one of the servants says to start the execution. They cut the ropes, and one of the gangsters says it's no use, because he's going to die anyway. But it is. Whoever goes into the teleporter never comes back out. It's what you might call a death sentence. The attendant throws him on the teleport, and he teleports away with tears in his eyes. He recalls that Nemia was killed by Dargo, the village headman, and the common people would not even listen to him. He hated them all. Our hero is thrown into the dungeon. He looks ahead and realizes that he finally finds himself in AC rank dungeon. He notices something approaching, and he realizes it's a rank A bugbear. The adventurers had told him about him. This monster is almost impossible to escape from, but he tries. Bagbear hits the ground, and the man immediately falls down. He begs for help and shouts for someone to help him. Then a strange silhouette of a woman appears, and he asks if he wants her to help him. Thoth screams and begs for help, and she agrees. She says that if she does, she will grant him a skill, and he gets the save and start over skill. But he doesn't understand how he can use this skill to defeat Packbear, because he knows absolutely nothing about this skill. And then with one blow, he was just finished. The hero wakes up again and looks at his hands. But why is he alive? After all, he was just killed. The character recalls that he was born in a Qatar village and was always discriminated against. He was constantly bullied because he was Alk, the boy with silver hair, and now he's just been thrown to the Baclerians. His life ended just like that. He looks at his hands again and doesn't realize he's back to life again. But he gets hit by Bagbear again and dies again. He wakes up again and remembers that he was destroyed by Bagbear again, but again dies at his hand. He realizes that he does not rise from the dead. In fact, every time he dies, he goes back a moment before he dies. This skill that girl gave him, the skill to save and start over, will he just keep dying all the time? Over and over again. He doesn't want to, but even when he tries to run away, the result is always the same. Dodging, jumping, nothing works. And again and again and again and again, he won't stop dying. He can't take it anymore, and he asks for someone to kill him permanently. Once dead, he will no longer feel pain. He remembers something and realizes it might work. He can get out of this hell if he stops the skill. He goes into the skill menu and doesn't realize what to do next. But when he touched Agnes status, memories of Nemia, Darga killing Nemia, and the villagers who had framed him came rushing into his head. The hero turns around and starts attacking the monster. Attack it how? He tries to hug it, but that clearly doesn't help him. He just moved forward without thinking, attacking Bagbear without any plan. A pathetic attempt, but it wasn't that futile. He killed him again. He managed to avoid his attack after many attempts. He doesn't know how many times he's died, probably over 100 times. Bagbear swings with his right hand, and he crouches down, avoiding his attack. Then he swings with his left, expecting to be able to grab him in that strike, but he dodges to the right, then jumps behind him. It's useless to try to run away right away. It'll be easier to kill him that way. He keeps calm and waits for his attack, dodging to the right. After all, it's the result of 100 deaths. He finally gets it and punches it in the face. He's happy that he did well, but he realizes that his punch is too weak, and he just starts running. He figures he has 25 seconds, and in that time, he needs to find a way to move on. He thinks that there is something he can use, as there is a variety of loot hidden in the dungeon. But there's just one junk? He sees a monster running after him and realizes he hasn't been here yet, and suddenly falls into a trap and dies. He continued to try about 200 times. He had already fought this Bagbear many times, so his movements became even more precise. Attacking Bagbear's eyes, he gains about 35 seconds. But this was only the beginning. A trap awaited him ahead. He realizes that he could only move up to that point, and after that he would jump into the trap and die. At one point, he just jumps and gets between the spikes. He finally succeeds at it. Now he can get to the secret room. He goes into a secret room and finds a treasure chest. He finds a wisdom crystal and is told that the effect will appear when used. He is shown a list of skills and realizes that he can choose one of the available skills. He considers which skill he should choose and realizes that healing magic and fire magic aren't really suitable for him, because he'll need a skill like magic regeneration first. Then that leaves swordsmanship and archery. That's useless unless he has any weapon, so he needs to choose the S rank. He thinks that he needs to choose acceleration to run out faster, although for survival is enough stealth skill. In the end, he chooses stealth skill, and there is a way out. and after a bunch of bugbears appear, and here he dies again at the hands of bugbears. He remembers that he was beaten to death by 10 bagbears in that room with a treasure chest, but here he finds himself near one bagbear again. Somehow, he gets to that ring again, and he already knows what skill he's going to take next time. So he picks the acceleration skill, and afterwards he uses it right away. He realizes that it's pretty inexpensive, because with the bugbear move, he can see everything. He died more than 200 times, and finally realized the S-rank stealth skill was useless against dozens of bugbears, but the acceleration skill helped him, and he was finally able to hit the bugbear, but immediately broke his arm. Because his body is not designed for the acceleration skill, he again appears near the bugbear after dying from dozens of bugbears, but this time he made more progress. If he could use his acceleration to dodge Bagbear's attack, he would have tons of opportunities to strike back. While he only appeared, he received a blow from Bagbear. He recalls the total number of attempts, about 225, and finally he's back in this room. It's just getting here is hard enough for him, and he died 5 times because he got too relaxed. He chooses acceleration and starts the fight, but it doesn't work. This is the 300th dodge attempt. He chooses acceleration, but he keeps getting killed by bugbears, even though he's trying his best. He uses speed, aiming for the eyes. They endure the pain and continue to attack him. He even made a grab and tried choking them, but the other bugbears just killed him. He dreads to think if rank C skills won't help him remove even one bagbear, and he can't defeat them with acceleration. It became obvious after 300 attempts. He will have to start all over again. He can't even muster up the courage to choose a skill, because when he dies, he'll be immediately attacked by that first bagbear. He'll kill him if he hesitates. There's no way out of here, he thinks to himself. But suddenly, he sees Namiya and that bully next to him. He asks him if he's going to come back, and he's once again filled with hatred. He says that if it wasn't for this hatred, he would have given up long ago, and he will do so. He will come out of this dungeon and take revenge with his own hands. He chooses the melee skill, and now he will use it. Acquiring body strengthening and physical strengthening skills, he studied how each skill worked against bugbears, with each attempt continuing to die. Then on about 4 out of 20 attempts, he continues to fight. And as he thought, the physical enhancement is pretty good, as attack, defense, and jumping power. All of these abilities greatly improve balance. He sits on Bagbear's head, and as if taunting him, asks if he's his opponent, and while Bagbear sees, he says goodbye to him. After all, it was the move that he came up with. He sets himself a target, Bugbear A, and jumps on him, hitting him in the head. He finally kills his first bugbear, and he gains skill points. He opens the skill window and increases his physical enhancement level. If he defeats the next bagbear and thus increases his level, he can reach a state where he can defeat all of them. He needs 100 skill points to advance to the next level. He realizes that in order to earn 12 skill points, he needs to defeat all the bugbears, and he thinks it's impossible because without a skill level increase, he'll never be able to beat them all. Attempt number 510. He doesn't understand why this had to happen to him. He brings up Darger again. He calls him shit and asks him why he's stuck in this hell. He curses him, and he says that if he gets out of this dungeon, he will kill everyone who betrayed him. And he did, though he says so. But gripped by pain and mental fatigue, his thoughts have sunk into despair. He has already partially resigned himself to the fact that he will not be able to escape from this dungeon. He accidentally clicks on the provocation skill and thinks it's unlikely that the skill will come in handy. He'll have to die to try something new. He thinks to himself, but since he has already chosen this skill, he needs to see how it works. He provokes them, and the bogeymen attack each other. He starts laughing evilly. He looks, he has bags under his eyes, and he's very tired. But he says, has all his skills, all his attempts. Alas, it's all been for nothing. He's just pissed off about it. He uses the skills to crush them all, and his fatigue is wearing off. He provokes them all again, and the bagbears start fighting. They kill each other, and there are only 2 left. He provokes again, and this time they hit each other and die. On about 510 attempts, he managed to reclaim this room. We are transported into the future by events. Our hero is escaping from an unknown undead. Having thrown himself out of the room with 10 buckers through the appeared passage, he found himself on a new level and ran into this creature that roams the floor. It's a rank A headless fly. He had killed it about 10 times already, but he does have some positives, for the point of return is now in the treasury. The thought of not having to fight those bugbears anymore can't make him any happier. He suggests some new location and discovers a transfer zone. There are 3 different circles, and he has to choose one of them. He chooses the middle one and realizes that if he makes a mistake, he will try another one next time. He discovers a corridor and walks down it. He approaches and finds a capsule containing a girl chained together. He remembers that she is the girl who gave him the skill. He realizes there is some kind of barrier around her. He touches it, and it just breaks down. He asks if she's okay, and she thanks him, because he's the reason she's awake. She asks him if she's finished the skill. He asks her name, and she introduces herself. She is Ajaha Tsubaki, a sealed former. He asks him to bow, and immediately kisses him. He asks what he's doing that she's doing that, and she replies that Lee's just decided to thank him, asks if it's bad or not. He thinks about this girl, what she wants, and she suggests he escape from the dungeon. He tells her that's exactly what he wants, and she grabs his hand. She promises him that she will get him out of this place. She destroys Arango's monster in an instant and asks him if she's strong and smirks sweetly afterward. The hero realizes that Ajiha is very strong, and he feels more confident with her. Aragueta absorbs the monster, and our hero asks what it is. She explains that the thing on her arm is a device that lets her collect different things. This skill is called storage. The hero remembers that this skill was in the status window, and the goddess explains that she has taken the magic stone and is calling him onward. The hero asks where they are going, and the goddess explains that they are heading to the room with the mid-boss, because if they don't defeat him, they won't be able to move on. She tells him that if he hadn't come, she would have stayed sealed in there forever, so she will fight for him. Kiski says he's only alive because of that, and it's mutual. They enter the room and find an S-rank stone giant there, and the hero marvels at how freaking big it is, 10 meters tall. The goddess yells for the pussy to step back, and she attacks him. She fights this golem as an equal, and the hero thinks she will defeat him. The heroine didn't follow the golem's strike and starts blocking it with her sword, and then it throws her off. The hero realizes that the golem's blow is so powerful that she just couldn't block it completely. After that, the hero uses provocation, and he attacks him, and then seals him into the ground. The goddess cries. She said she would protect him, but the hero smirks and gets out of there, because he can dodge very well, because he has dodged so many bugbear's blows. The goddess welcomes. She is glad that he survived. The golem's hand gets stuck in the wall, and she prepares to strike, then attacks using the Holy Way sword technique, killing the golem completely. She throws herself into the main character's arms. She is glad that they defeated the golem, the mid-boss of this level. At this point, the hero thought it would be okay, because he didn't know where it would lead yet. After defeating the golem, some have discovered a hidden passage and begin looking for a way out to move on, and the goddess declares that she has found the hideout. The hero looks and says he didn't know there could be something like this dungeon. The goddess tells him that this room must have been built by vampires, but the hero is surprised, for he has never heard of them. She tells him that the vampire Judith considers the dungeon her home. The hero thinks and asks our goddess if it's okay that they came in here without asking, and he asks her if the vampires will get mad at them. The goddess declares that he shouldn't worry and says she's tired and suggests he stay here for the night. But the hero realizes it's best not to. But if Ajaha is so sure, his thoughts are interrupted by Ajaha herself and asks him to join him. She asks him to approach her, after which she states that she wanted to talk to him more. The hero smiles and replies that it's fine. He asks her if he is horrible. His hair is silver colored. He is not accepted in the human realm. The look, but she replies that it's cool because they look pretty unusual, and that's fine. The hero smiles because silver hair is a sign of the hated Alk race. No one saw his hair as something good. In the entire time, only 2 people have treated his hair normally, Nami and Ajiha. Ojiha tells me that it's probably because she's from another world. This is not her home world, but the hero declares that this is the first time he's ever heard of anyone coming here from another world. The goddess asks if he believes her, to which the hero smiles and replies that he does. Heroine, goddess, rests her head on the hero's shoulder, and she says it was clear. She knew he would say that. The hero thinks about the fact that this strange intimacy might be so common in another world. His stomach makes hunger sounds, and she realizes he is hungry. The hero states that he hasn't eaten anything since he came to this dungeon. The goddess replies that there is some meat of a headless mule left in the storehouse, and offers to cook dinner for him. She puts on an apron and starts cooking. The hero sees the food and looks at it, and is immediately energized with appetite. He swallows, but after blurring for a second, he declares that it's delicious. He finally eats the food with tears, for it's hard to get food in the dungeon, and he doesn't know how to make something so delicious and complicated, for there seems to be few seasonings and spices in this vault. He realizes that she used them to make a very tasty dish. It's the first normal meal he's had since he was thrown into this hellish dungeon, and he can't even believe it. The goddess notices him crying and asks if it's because of the spices. The hero shares that he is quite tired today and says that he will go to bed early tonight, but he thinks about the fact that there is only one bed. He talks about sleeping on the couch, but the goddess says he can lie down on the bed because they don't have to sleep separately, they can sleep together on the same bed. He gets embarrassed and says he doesn't think it's a good idea. After that, they lie down in separate bunks. The hero thinks about the fact that if Ajaha's strength continues like this, they will be able to get out of this dungeon. But honestly, it's pretty pathetic to rely on the girl's strength. But with her, she has a chance. That's why, and henceforth, the hero interrupts his thoughts and notices the girl from behind. She is on top of him. She kisses him and asks him to touch his chest. She asks if he can feel her heart pounding. She says she loves her. He is loved very much by him. The girl literally goes down on him here. She looks at him with a big, strong grin. He tells her about how he hasn't done anything to be treated so special, but she asks what he's talking about, because Kiski saved her. All this time, she has been sealed in the depths of the dungeon. For hundreds of years, she was alone, waiting to be rescued one day by a prince. So to everyone who came to the depths of the dungeon, she gave her skill. Ajiha gave, and he realizes that Ajiha gave him that skill because she wanted him to save her. She recalls that it was all to no avail. It seemed that when she gave her skill countless times, all the people gave up midway, and he wasn't the only one who could get to her. She calls him Prince and talks about how she has been waiting for him for a very long time. She raises her wuzu and is finally about to do something, but the hero asks her to stop. He says he can't do that because he loves someone else, after which she says there's nothing wrong with that. She'll be happy even if she becomes the other one, after which he kisses her again. Our hero again remembers the past, and flips the girl off in a rage, after which apologizes, asking if she's okay, because she is. He realizes that he can't help it, because when she pounced on him, he immediately remembered those guys who tried to rape Namiya. She talks about how she rushed things and apologizes. He realizes he should have found a gentler way, but without Ajiha's protection, there's no way he can get out of the dungeon. Tomorrow, he will have to deal with his feelings. He wakes up and sees Ajiha committed. Our hero feels bad, and he realizes that she did it because he rejected her. He tries to justify himself. He says it was an accident. Then he runs out and gets hit by a monster. He comes back. He's here again. He remembers that it was his choice that got Ajiha killed. But what should he have done? Should he have was to accept Ajiha's love. He remembers Namiya and realizes that she is gone, but Ajiha is alive. He is here again, and he talks about how he will accept her love and will definitely save her. Ajiha wakes up and asks who he is, but suddenly the heroine doesn't recognize his name. She says it's the first time she's heard the name and asks why he smells so disgusting. The hero realizes that the girl in front of him is not like Ajiha, even though she looks like her. He asks if it's her, and Ajiha realizes that this isn't the first time they've met. The hero thinks about the fact that if she let him keep otherwise at first, it's natural to assume that they met before he traveled back in time. Ajiha says that the protagonist probably acted hostile towards them last time, whereupon the protagonist says that it was probably a misunderstanding. Ajiha with an audible face starts choking the protagonist, saying that he stinks, and she says that she doesn't hope that death will allow him to right any wrong, because even after dying, your actions leave a mark on your soul. She asks him who he is. For such an evil creature, she asks him not to even hope for small talk. The hero asks to let him talk to her, whereupon she tells him that he has already rejected Agiha. And lastly, she gives him advice not to get involved with Agiha anymore. With these words, she simply snapped his neck. The hero recalls Agiha's words to him about not messing with her anymore. He realizes that she will most likely just kill him again. He decides that he will not go back to her, and the seal will not be broken. He realizes that it will be much harder to go through the dungeon without Ajiha's help, and he realizes that he just needs to choose a different path then. He used the center circle that time, so now he will choose the left teleport. He appears in the same corridor, but as he walks further, he finds a girl sitting at a table drinking tea. She declares that it is very rare that anyone can get in here, and praises him for being able to do it. The hero can't believe it. The girl is impatiently drinking tea in this hellish dungeon. He thinks about who she is and what it means. The girl asks what our hero wants, and he says that basically he is looking for a way out of the dungeon. At first glance, she seems to understand, but says it's disrespectful since he has a great true vampire in front of him. She says he probably knows her because her name is Judith. She cuts open her arm and creates a blade from there, then stabs the hero. Looking down at him, she tells him that he will make it up to her with his death. He realizes that he's been killed again, and he thinks about how everyone in this dungeon has clearly gone crazy. He remembers what Ajiha said about her, and that Judy the vampire considers the dungeon her home. He realizes that a vampire killed him. He realizes that she is the true vampire Judith. He remembers that she was dressed as a nice girl, but turned out to be a dangerous creature. This time he decides to take the third route and realizes that there is only the right teleportation circle left. He then goes in and realizes that it's the same corridor as all the previous times. This time he encounters a sword, but it looks strange. He realizes that he was empty-handed all this time. But if this sword turns out to be a powerful weapon, it will help him escape from this dungeon. He wants to pull the blade out of the ground, but receives an electric shock, and he realizes that at the same moment he felt a terrible pain in his whole body. His arm did not obey him at all, and the agony lasted for several minutes, and then he lost consciousness. He wakes up and is surprised that he is alive, but he sees a sword in his hand. His right hand is merged with his sword, but it's heavy, and the hero wonders what that even means. Even though he can move around, he doesn't even expect to improve his skills with such heaviness. He meets an AI Orang werewolf and thinks he's going to die, but the sword throws itself at him and kills the monster. The hero says he's fine with that, and he'll do anything to get out of this dungeon. The hero moves forward and kills a bunch of monsters. He remembers again that this sword is damn strong and can be relied upon. He opens the boss room, and then Griffin of rank appears. He realizes that it is the boss from here, after which Griffin attacks him, but the sword saves the hero. He is fully enthusiastic about the battle, as he now has a sword that will help him defeat any monster. But he realizes that all he can do now is simply not interfere with the Black Sword's movements, for it may be the only way for him to win. He cuts Griffin down and realizes that the Black Sword is powerful, and he removes anyone who gets in its way. Just as after killing Galim, a secret door opens in the room. The hero realizes that with this sword, he'll be out of the dungeon in no time. The hero looks at his hand and realizes that it's getting bigger and bigger, whereupon he meets a vampire, and apparently she remembers him, saying that he's grown up quite nicely. The hero doesn't understand why she's here, and he asks her what the hell she wants. She's surprised that the hero is still conscious, then asks if he's curious about what they're doing here, and the vampiress confesses that she must destroy this sword, for this parasitic sword is already in his right half. She calls it a parasitic doll sword. It grows by parasitizing humans and feeding on monsters. This thing is very dangerous, but there are rarely people in the dungeon, so she thought it would be fine. But stuff happens sometimes. After that, the vampires smile. The hero asks if she's going to kill him, and the vampires realizes he doesn't need to explain anything. whereupon she snaps off her hand and creates a blade. She makes herself a sword with blood and asks him to die by attacking him. The hero defends himself with the sword and realizes he has a chance to win. The vampirist can't believe his defeat, then says with a smirk that this sword has grown to the point where it is no longer easy to handle. The hero realizes that this is his chance to pass on. Then the vampire uses the Scarlet Shower and uses it on the hero again. Huge scarlet arrows stick into the hero and our hero dies. The hero is rolled back again and he doesn't realize what to do again because using the first round of teleportation, he will encounter a seal de Gueja. After the seal is broken, she will be killed by some other personality in her body. If he uses the second circle, Judith's vampirism will finish him off too, but by choosing the third way, he'll get a parasitic puppet sword and go deeper. But why? Judy will show up and kill him. So if he wants to stay alive as long as possible, he needs to choose the third circle. He decides to focus on it, and he realizes that with this sword he must defeat Judith and get through this dungeon. He realizes that before he meets Judith, he needs to kill enough monsters to grow his sword to its limit. Maybe that's how he can defeat her. Thanks for listening, everyone. It was my pleasure to retell this manga. All the best to you. I'll see you in the next installments.